All right, hey everyone. I'm gonna try to keep this video short. One, because if you're anything like me, you hate long YouTube videos, and two, I'm running out of iPhone storage. So yeah, I'll try to keep it short. So here I have a 2008 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. Currently about a week and a half into a solo camping trip. I've had the opportunity to kind of move things around and adjust things to my liking in the way that I think is most effective. If you're planning on camping with more than one person using my setup, I don't know, that might be kind of tight. If you have just a two-door Wrangler, again, it's gonna be tight. I think you could probably do it if you're under 6 foot. You could probably use a two-door Wrangler, but ideally we have a four-door. So the Jeep I have here is 160,000 miles. It's running, it's doing okay so far. It hasn't let me down over the course of 2,500 miles. So let's hope it stays that way as I return home. But so I think the biggest thing here is, let's start with how I've modified the Jeep. As you'll see, if I can adjust this here, you'll see the passenger seat is missing. When I went to kind of set things up, I realized that was the only option I had to make everything fit. So if you're looking to do a setup like this, I would definitely suggest taking out the passenger seat. That allows for a nice bed to replace that. You can see it goes the length, goes back quite a bit. I'm 5'11", and I fit just fine in here. I have my feet towards the front of the car, my head towards the back of the Jeep. And when you are setting this up, make sure that you consider the fact that you want your head to be higher than your feet. Definitely don't want vice versa. You don't want all that blood rushing towards your head. I don't think you'd sleep very well unless you're a crazy person. So just keep that in mind. I'll show you what I've set up here. It really is jerry-rigged. It's nothing special. So not with that seat missing, I've been able to take some some plywood here, or some particle board, just some scrap I had laying around. It's about 6 foot long by maybe 1.5 feet. You can see it extends the length that I just showed you. Use some 2x6s to support it. I really just used some scrap wood, some scrap metal to kind of jerry rig this all together. One thing to keep in mind too is I think this video will be more geared towards those on a budget. If you're anything like me, broke college student, I try to keep the budget in mind. And obviously you could buy the fancy tent campers that go right on top. There's a lot of stuff you can buy for camping, but again, on a budget, I think this is the setup I have. For me, works great, and I would suggest it for really any other solo campers looking to do a similar thing. So again, we have that 6 foot by 1.5 foot sheet of particle board. You just need to support it at several places. I have it main support up front. It gives me the height that I need, and the back half actually rests on, essentially it rests on the folded seats. You can see that I have a little spacer in there. So it basically rests on this seat here and extends the length over there. And again, just make sure that you have some sort of incline to keep your head above your feet, otherwise you won't sleep very well. The nice thing about taking that passenger seat out, I'll show you here, is now you have a bunch of storage. So you see I keep extra shoes, I have extra waters, I have sunscreen, which isn't important, none of that stuff. Kidding, mom, it's super important. Some hiking boots, first aid kit. We have the basic toolkit. You never know what's gonna happen on these trips, so it's important to have one of those basic toolkits. And then just some propane tanks, which I'll show you later why I have those. But I really think it's important to take that passenger seat out. It gives you a bunch of space, and assuming you're just doing this solo, there's really no need for the passenger seat. It's just taking up space. So you replace it with a nice bed. You see here I have, this is a mattress topper from my freshman dorm, and it works great. It's super comfortable. I would suggest, if you don't have that, really any mattress topper, or I guess if you're really desperate, just a bunch of blankets to kind of give you some sort of padding. Obviously it's not very comfortable to sleep on this. Sleeping bag, I don't know, something like that would work well. I kind of sleep like a pencil, so that's why it's so tight. A foot and a half wide, I mean, that works for me. I really have no issue with that. But if you're more picky, I suppose you could maybe extend it over a little bit of the console. I don't really know. something like that. But this works for me, and I really don't have any issues with that. Let's move over to the other side. So the passenger seat was not the only seat that I had to take out to make this work. I also took out, so that bench seat in the back is actually two pieces. There's a bigger side, which I kept in, and the smaller seat. I took the smaller seat out and I replaced it with this cooler. Super easy. I mean, you literally just open the door, cooler is right there. You can take it in and out to replace ice. Super easy. One thing to keep in mind with this cooler is so if you're out in the heat like I am, in the middle of the day, this cooler is pretty well insulated. I mean, it's a Yeti. It insulates itself pretty well. But you have this seat insulating it. You have all this junk in the back insulating it, the stuff in the back insulating it. Keep in mind that the exhaust pipe runs directly underneath that cooler. And so when you're on a long drive, I mean, that gets really hot. And even if you come over here after a long drive, you'll feel that this space is warm. So what I did is I put a little bit of a spacer in there. I put some, I'm not going to take it out right now, but there's like some 2x4s under there. You can see there's a gap between the cooler and the floor mat. You want some sort of gap there because obviously air is a great insulator and it will help dissipate that heat from the muffler underneath or the exhaust pipe underneath. Also nice, I have just snacks right on top of here. It's a great place for that. Food's all kind of in the same area. I put blankets and towels on top again just to insulate those snacks. Chocolate, not a great idea. I learned that the hard way. Don't bring chocolate on a trip. It's just not worth it. Let's open up the back here. This is where things get kind of interesting. So I'll talk about that mess in a little bit. But this right here is awesome. I bought this Pit Boss griddle for maybe 80 bucks. I think it was on sale. And my dad and I engineered this little bracket. So obviously they make like $200, $300 like grill brackets to mount to these Jeep tailgates. But again, I'm broke. That was too expensive. So what we did, you pop off this plastic trim, all this here, and you'll notice, well, now we have some mounting brackets here. Because this tailgate mostly is hollow, so you can't like tap into it or throw some rivets in there. It's hollow, it's thin sheet metal. So we figured the best way to do it was just to hang it off here. This actually just pops right out. It does rattle a little bit when you drive, so if you want to find another way to secure it, go right ahead. I don't really have an issue with it. We took some plywood here, added some mounting brackets, just slips right into those trim mounting places, or slots, sorry. Some basic metal, and yeah, it's pretty straightforward. It's all mounted up there and it works great. Haven't had any issues with it, and definitely a lot cheaper than those options out there. So if you're on a budget, definitely the way to go. One thing to keep in mind is over time, this obviously is not the most secure way to do things, and if you look close enough, you'll actually see that the metal is starting to shear a little bit from just the fatigue and all the dynamic loading and stuff. So I think if we were to do this over again, I'd probably add another hook here, because if you can spread that load over more slots, it'd be more ideal. Less stress concentrations on each of those slots. So if you were to do that, try to add as many slots as possible and spread out that load. But this works great. You'll see this right here, pops under there. You add your propane tank, you light it, and I make food twice a day on this, breakfast, dinner, and it's super nice, super convenient to just pull at the tailgate and have that there. So yeah, let's talk about this mess here. So if you're on a trip, get a big tank of water. That's something I had not considered. Something my parents suggested, and I'm really glad I did. I use that for just showering, washing my hands, brushing my teeth, contacts, washing my hands for my contacts, stuff like that. Definitely have some sort of jug of water back here, or really anywhere. I mean, it doesn't really matter where you put it. This is where I figured to be the best location. You see I have this big Jeep old vintage speaker. Hopefully you have a smaller one. So in the weeks leading up to your trip, I would highly suggest, obviously when you go to the grocery store and stuff, you get these plastic bags with all your food. hold on to those bags. It is better to reuse those bags than recycle it, reduce, or reuse, reduce, recycle. Reuse those bags and use them as little garbage bags. Use them as little garbage bags. I use them for dirty laundry just to kind of contain the smell. And the smaller you can keep those garbage bags, it's super easy. You just fill them up and you go to your local gas station, toss them out or whatever. And it's just super easy. You don't want a big, large garbage bag because obviously it's going to take up space and it's going to get smelly, and you don't want that. You kind of want to get the garbage out of your car. So in the weeks leading up, kind of store those bags, get some together, and that will be really convenient for you, I promise. You see back here, always, if you're like me, you're 3/8, burns oil or leaks oil, or you don't really know. So it's good to have some oil back there and continuously check your oil level. Back here, good place to store things. I would suggest not storing food or anything that is susceptible to heat, because the muffler is right underneath there. And after a long trip, if you open this up, you'll feel it. It gets really hot in there. So I only keep metal tools. I have all my emergency tools in there. No food, nothing like that. You don't want plastic or food and stuff like that under there. So just keep that in mind. You see in the middle here, I have this big plastic bin that is full of just clothes. I'm not particularly happy with this setup. It would be really convenient to have like some sort of pull-out system or drawer system, even up front underneath where the passenger seat was. It would be very convenient. So if you have more time, I put this all together in a day, so I was kind of on a time crunch. I'd also suggest not bringing as much clothes as I did. I'm on a 2-week road trip and I really don't need that many clothes. You can wear the same clothes 2 days in a row. You're always traveling, so people don't really know. You'll see here I have the soft top hooks, and I utilize that for more storage. So I used old ice cream tubs this is all my cooking supplies and washing my hands and stuff like that. Over here I have body wipes and face wipes and stuff like that, just for kind of helps with showering and stuff. Again, you're going to want to bring a bunch of shop towels with you just for washing your hands and cleaning stuff up. And yeah, so you can see I've kind of I'm on a budget, so I'm using old ice cream buckets, and obviously with this, just using wood, metal I have around the house. So it definitely is possible to do a road trip on a budget. One thing I would highly suggest is, you'll see right here, these are car curtains. I bought them on Amazon for pretty cheap. Still overpriced if you ask me, but so I have four curtains, 3 on this side, which cover that window, that window, that window. I have 1 curtain on this side, which covers that window. I have just a black blanket, which I throw over the side of this frame, the roll cage, which covers, the light from the back. That way it stays dark at night, and I just pull it over a little bit more to cover this window. So works out great. One thing I do too is my bath towels, I just throw up on top of these visors, and it just stays there, and it makes the car pretty dark. I mostly do it just so people can't see me. It's just weird at night, people could be looking in your car and stuff. So throw the towels up on there, and yeah, again, I highly suggest getting those curtains or something. I mean, I suppose you could just use blankets and kind of roll it over the roll cage or something like that. But one thing I did too is, all right, I apologize about that break there. My phone ran out of storage, so I had to go delete some apps. iPhones, I tell you. So yeah, so that's kind of the setup back here. And I would, if you can, try to find some better way to mount this light up there. The heat during the day, the adhesive just doesn't stick. So I really haven't used that light too much, to be honest with you, so it's not that big of a deal. But yeah, one thing too that worked out nice is having this folding chair across here. It honestly provides some head support, kind of like a headboard on a bed. It provides some support for the back of the bed, just so you're not sliding back and forth. So maybe you want to consider that. So that's the back of there. I do want to mention a few more things. So if you have this set up like I do, you kind of have a little gap between your food and your bed. That's kind of where I put all my personal items. So I just have a big jacket and just my hygiene stuff, and I have some books down there which I haven't even touched. You think a 2-week road trip you'd have time to read, but you'd find other things to do. So computer, have drone back down there, and this big jacket. One thing to keep in mind too is before you leave for your trip, please check the weather of these locations you're going to. So I'm from Wisconsin. I traveled out west. I thought it only got warmer. Turns out you go to Yellowstone in the middle of May, it is like 20 and 30 degrees. So when you pack t-shirt and shorts, it's just not enough. Luckily, I packed this jacket. So just be smart. Don't do what I did. Look at the weather and don't wing it as much as I did. So yeah, there's that for advice. Maybe one last thing here. Oh yeah, one thing too. I know I said I have shoes on here. I also have, I think I have coolant, brake fluid, and yeah, just coolant, brake fluid down there. Just, it's important to keep that extra stuff on you. Again, my 3.8 is kind of going out on me, so plenty of oil. Let's see. In the console, I just have sunglasses and stuff like that. Not really too important. One thing definitely to purchase for your trip, this guy right here, an inverter. So on the Jeep JKs, they have a all-time power car outlet on the right. So the one on the left, it only powers up when the car is on. The one on the right is only powered, or is always powered, regardless of if the car is on or off. So buy yourself an inverter. I use this to charge phone, camera, stuff like that at night. I've charged a laptop off of here without the car running, and it does not nearly drain enough power to cause any issues. So go ahead and buy one of these. You can run it all night. I have had no issues charging stuff at night and not having, and draining the battery. No issues at all. So maybe I just have a good battery. Maybe check the status of your battery before you leave for your trip. But definitely buy one of these. Super nice. One thing over here too. When you're going on a road trip like I am, it's important to have navigation. Buy yourself a nice phone mount. Don't buy one of those cheap clips that go to the vent. It's a hassle, and it will take your eyes off the road, take your focus off the road. Buy a nice one. This black piece is one I bought. This metal was fabricated to fit the Jeep. Just buy one that fits and works nice. I also have an Amazon Alexa right there. Again, super nice for keeping my eyes on the road and just telling, hey Alexa, play some music, or hey Alexa, do this, that. So I would definitely suggest doing that. And yeah, that's about all I've got, I believe. All right, I lied. One more thing. If you're like me, you lose your car keys a lot, and you have a tendency to lock your car keys in your Jeep. And if you're on a road trip in the middle of nowhere, you'll be screwed. So one thing to keep in mind, this is what I did. The day before I left, I went to a locksmith and had an extra key made. You'll see it's right there. I zip tied it to the cold air intake. Just have an extra key and hide it somewhere in the Jeep that no one will find it, because if you're in the middle of nowhere, you'll be screwed if you lock your keys in your car or you lose them. So keep that in mind. Again, just another small tip that might save you. So if you have any questions, definitely feel free to leave some in the comments or in the comment section, and I might do a follow-up video, and I'll probably be posting some videos of the trip itself. But yeah, that's just kind of how I have set things up. It's worked out pretty good. I don't know as if I would really change too much. Definitely this kind of setup, if you're on a budget, is the way to go. If you don't want to buy all the fancy camping equipment. And yeah, so I appreciate everyone listening. And again, any questions, comments, throw in the chat. So thank you guys. Have a great day and have fun camping and jeeping, and yeah, see you later.